A kú ojúmọ́ o. Ẹ káàárọ̀ o, gbogbo ẹ̀yin àlejò wa. Ẹ káàbọ̀ sí àpérò yìí tìgbà tá a péjọ fún lénìí. Ẹ dẹ̀ káàbọ̀ sí ilé ìwé gíga ti Lead City University. Ilé ẹ̀kọ́ gíga aládàáni alákọ̀ọ́kọ́ irú rẹ̀ ní ìlú Ìbàdàn. Inú wa dùn púpọ̀ láti kí gbogbo yín àti láti kí yín káàbọ̀ sí àpérò yìí. And that is the limit of the Yoruba I'm speaking this morning. Good morning, everybody. Kábíyèsí sà, ẹ káàárọ̀ sà, ẹ káàárọ̀ gbogbo ẹ̀yin àlejò wa. Welcome, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, to this fantastic university, Lead City University, Ibadan. And welcome to this, the 7th J.A. Atanda Lectures and Conference. It is an honor and an immense privilege for me to welcome you here today. I'm your anchor for the program, and my name is Deborah Adejobi. I am the head of marketing at Lead City University, and I warmly welcome you to our campus. So without further ado, we'd like to recognize and welcome to the high table some of the dignitaries for today's event. Following our Yoruba tradition and culture, we want to invite the Kábíyèsí, but we will not disturb you, sir. We will not ask you to come up to the high table because we know that you are comfortable where you are. Sir? Oh, fantastic. Kábíyèsí has kindly obliged us to come up to the high table. So please join me, ladies and gentlemen, in welcoming Oba Dr. Adedokun Omoniyi Abolarin, Aroyinkeye 1, Orogun of Okeila. Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir. We appreciate you, sir. Thank you very much. Next, we'd like to invite the convener of this program, Professor Toyin Falola. Sir, you're welcome to the high table. Can we applaud Professor Falola as he comes up, please? The next person we'd like to invite to the high table is the Vice Chancellor of Lead City University, Ibadan. He's ably represented here today by the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Science and Technology, in the person of Professor Olushola Ladokun. Welcome, Ma. Thank you very much for coming. Next to be welcome to the high table is Dr. Adejoke Fatunde. Dr. Adejoke Fatunde is the first daughter of J.A. Atanda. Yes. Welcome, Ma. Thank you so much. All right, I would like to recognize and appreciate the presence of Professor Shinyo Oyeweso, the Pro-Chancellor and Chairman, Governing Council, Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife. I want to mention that he was the first one to arrive here today. He arrived very, very early for this program. Thank you so much, sir. We appreciate your punctuality and the excellent example that you set. Thank you very much, sir. To this side of the high table, we would like to welcome Deaconess Adeyoye Atanda. Welcome, Ma. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ma. Welcome. Next, we'd like to invite Mrs. Bidemi Atanda. Welcome, Ma. Thank you so much for coming. Next, we'd like to invite Chief Adewale Atanda to the high table. All right, while we await Chief Atanda, I would also like to invite Mrs. Bisola Balogun to the high table. Welcome, ma'am. Thank you. I'd like to recognize and invite to the table on my right-hand side here, the Registrar of Leeds City University, represented here today by Mr. Olusegun Adeagbo Fatoki. Please applaud him as he comes up. Also present here is the librarian of Leeds City University, Dr. Olanrewaju Oshani. Please come to the table, sir. Thank you very much. All right, we'd like to recognize at this moment the following people. I'm just going to run through their names, and we would like to invite the family members of the Atandas, the children and grandchildren that are here, to come forward to the 2 rows in front here. So I'm starting with okay, I've already called up Mrs. Bidemi Atanda. Thank you very much, Ma, for coming. The children. Mr. Oh, I'm sorry. All right, we have Chief Adewale. Mr. Adeleye Atanda, please come forward. Mr. Adeboye and Mrs. Mosun Atanda. Mr. Tolulope Atanda. I have this note here to recognize Mrs. Bisola Balogun, who has stood as mother to the Atanda children for 50 years and counting. Ma, we thank you very much for being a pillar of support to the family. Thank you very much, Ma. Mrs. Moji Akinrin-Boye, we welcome you to the front seat, Ma. Mrs. Akinrin-Boye is representing the nieces and nephews. Also, the maternal cousins, the Adeis, Mrs. Buade Akinola, Mrs. Bola Adeyi, Dr. Adejoke Fatunde. Sorry, I've called her already. Yes. Then the grandchildren, Mr. Adesoye Atanda, please come forward if you are here. Thank you. Miss Adejoke Atanda, Master Adesheye Atanda, and all of the relatives that are here, please come forward if you are here. We have special seating for you in front here. All the children and grandchildren. All right, the next item on the program is to take the anthems of Nigeria and the university. We're just waiting for technical to be ready. All right, while we're waiting for that to happen, I would also like to recognize and invite to the high table Chief Akin Oshuntokun, our keynoter for today, fellow Nigeria Academy of Letters, fellow Nigeria Institute of International Affairs, fellow at the School of Global and Area Studies, University of Oxford. Please come to the high table, sir. Chief Akin Oshuntokun. Thank you, sir. I'd also like to invite up here our lead paper presenter. He is Dr. Lasisi Olagunju. He's an editor and columnist at the Nigerian Tribune. Dr. Olagunju, you are welcome to the high table, sir. I would like to recognize and welcome to the high table the head of history, University of Ibadan. Please come up here, sir. All right. I'd like to recognize and appreciate all the members of staff of Leeds City University, the deans and heads of department who are here. I can see the head of Department Languages and Literature, Dr. Ufoma Davis. Thank you very much, Ma, for being here. So for those who may not have, we don't have a physical program. We're totally electronic for this program. And so there is no physical program booklet, but we have our program online. And so what we'd like to do is, if you are not on the platform of the conference, I'd like to call out a number that you can chat, and then the program will be sent to you by WhatsApp. The program QR code for the program is also posted at the back on the door. So you can just scan the code on the door and have the program as well. But I'll read out the telephone number. Are we ready? It's 080 3373 7184. 080-3373-7184. And that is the telephone number of the Conference Planning Committee Chairman, Professor Godwin Oyedokun. So please private chat him and he will send you the link to the program. We're waiting for it. How confident are we with singing the national anthem with... Maybe this will be our first test to see how much you know. The anthem is in the program anyway. So if you want to click on if you want to private chat Professor Oyedokun to get the link, and then we can go. Oh yeah, you'll be sent to the platform. Okay, you'll be sent to the platform where the link is posted. Thank you very much, Dr. Busari. He's coming up to lead the anthem.
Okay. Professor Oyedokun, please send the program so that everybody can join.
Please rise, ladies and gentlemen. Emma, can you take the Lead City University anthem, please?
Oh my God, I'm on the line. I'm on the line. Oh my God, I'm on the line. I'm on the line. Oh my God, I'm on the line. I'm on the line.
Thank you very much. You may be seated. Thank you very much. And right away, we will go into the welcome address by the opening remarks by the convener of this conference. That is Professor Toyin Falola. We welcome you to the podium, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We did not know there will be national protest. Well, we chose this topic. But it has become very appropriate that of ongoing protest. And many questions participants were asking is, are we still going to hold? And I said, well, once you get to the campus of Lead City, we will suspend the protest for today and tomorrow. 297 paper presenters have registered this morning. And that's a very high number. Very high number. So it's very successful. Anywhere where we host this conference, we leave a permanent legacy behind. On behalf of the Atanda family, including the grandchildren, we're implanting the name of Atanda on this campus permanently with the creation of the Atanda Best Prize for the best graduating student in the Faculty of Arts. Thank you very much.
We need to appreciate the convener one more time, please. Thank you very much. Especially those of us from Leeds City University. We're very proud to be associated with this conference and lecture series. And we also appreciate the prize that you have instituted today. Thank you so much, sir. We appreciate it. And I also congratulate the 297 conference attendees. I think this is a very, very magnificent number. Thank you so much, everybody who registered and for everyone who is here today. The next item on the program is the welcome address by the Conference Planning Committee Chairman, Professor Godwin Oyedokun.
I thought he would smile. After all, we are here already. Strike or no strike, protest or no protest, even whether you register online or manually, you are here. Your Excellency is the convener of this very important conference. Our father in academics, who is our academic juggernaut, Professor Toyin Falola. Honestly, when names of this nature are pronounced, some of us that are just coming up need not even be sharing podium with the likes of our father here. However, I remember when some of us were coming up in early 80s, late 70s, when our father were going to the program, we noticed that drummers always come with their children. And what they do is to give them omele and all those small ones and agogo. And that is the principle on which such developed. So it wasn't so difficult for us to learn under that particular tutelage. KBSC, you are recognized and you, of course, add this glamour to our event today. And it's on this note, I request everyone to say once again, KBSC, KBSC. We may not be here if there's no particular event called Atanda. And that is why I'm using this, especially our Dr. Mrs. on the high table, who has been introduced as his first daughter of Pad Atanda, to recognize all the family members that made this possible today. Thank you so much, and we want to congratulate you for putting this as we move on. Honestly, this university is of sorts, and we have our people. Our number one citizen is seated, person of our Vice Chancellor, Professor Kabir Adeyemo, as ably represented by our Deputy Vice Chancellor, Science and Technology, Professor Oladokun. Thank you for making it here. We have the Governing Council chair of our important university there. Thank you for making it happen and for coming as early as we had you. Principal officers of our great university, Leeds City University, I want to assure you that you are doing well. Hence, there wouldn't have been a conducive environment for this important visitor to be seated peacefully. And we want to salute your courage and thank you for hosting this event. Professor Falola, thank you for allowing small boy like me to also be part of this event. And I'd like to refer you to page 8 of the brochure that we have set out. On behalf of the planning committee, we are very proud to say you are welcome. For the 2 days, this esteemed venue will host you. And if there is anything you need other than what we have provided, please private chat me. A city step in activism, and I'm referring to Ibadan, our whole city. We can say it is both of a rich, deepening intertwined with the theme of our conference because of its foundation since 1829. Cumulative with that, I'd like to acknowledge the fact that some people have worked tirelessly to ensure that we have this conference. And I will be missing it if I do not recognize it. And I want to express my sincere gratitude to several eminent figures and team members who have made this conference possible. If you are one of the committee members, would you just please stand up wherever you are and just wave? It won't do any harm. Just wave. Please, can we just clap for them? It is easier to play football from outside the field. And I want to congratulate you for this. And should you want to organize any other program in future, I know you want to call on us. Thank you. I have their list here on that page 9. I also want to appreciate Lee City University because it gave us this platform that we are using today. You will also need to appraise yourself of the importance of Yoruba activism. The rich Yoruba activism serve as our guiding trend. We delve into spectrum of sub-themes as we have advertised. Yoruba activism, as we have it today, we aim to ensure that invaluable of what we represent is progressed and respected. As you have listened today with the initial presentation we have, you will know that we have a lot in store. For those of us that embarked on that short trip to what I call Professor Wole Soyinka's museum yesterday, you will appreciate the nature of nature and the need for us to continue to preserve that which is ours. Even if you study accountancy, you study library, if your own is HR, you will not want to forget your roots. And I both to say, as one of the chief in Yoruba land, I will not use Owosi Lati Juwele Baba Temi. What of you? You don't want to say it? Yes, we can speak all the English. They are called Turenchi out there. But this is our own. Discussion around Yoruba activism in the diaspora and its influence on global activism promise a truly expansive exposure. And I want to tell you that you should sit back as we continue to cruise on the 33,000 above sea level for this particular conference. If there is any other thing that you don't like about this conference, chat me. I will refund your conference fee. That is if you pay anything at all. It's on this note, I want to welcome you once again. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Chair, Planning Committee. The man is indefatigable. I think he runs on Energizer batteries. They never die. He just keeps going on and on and on. Thank you very much, Professor Oyedeokun. All right. I'd like to recognize and welcome to the program Professor and Mrs. Olufemi Faboya, retired Professor of Analytical Chemistry, University of Ibadan and Lautech. Thank you very much, sir and ma, for coming. We appreciate your presence. I'd also like to recognize Deputy Provost, Taisho Lanre College of Education, Ogun State. Dr. Cornelius, thank you so much for being here. Our program is the address by the chief host, that is Professor Kabiru Aderemi Adeyemo. He's ably represented by the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Science and Technology, Professor Olushola Ladokun. Thank you very much. Please welcome her to the high table. Good morning, everyone.
An array of Yoruba activists who have set the agenda in nationhood and service to humanity. I recall with pride the exploits of Bashanuga, the great Moremi Ajasoro, the legendary Mrs. Funmilayo Ransom Kuti, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, Herbert Macaulay, Herbert Ogunde, Durola Dipo, the late legal luminary Gani Fawaimi, Afrobeat legend Femi Anikulapo Kuti, and very recently, Sunday Adeniyi, popularly known as Sunday Igboho, among others who have built their activism around contemporary issues of their time. Some of these issues have helped in carving a niche and an identity for the Yoruba race. In the realm of history, contribution through a copious documentation of the exploits of our activists who lived before his demise, while the likes of the convener of these lectures and conference, Emeritus Professor Toyin Falola, has assiduously kept the flame burning after the departure of Professor Atanda. I want to salute your untiring spirit, sir, which is the hallmark of Yoruba activism, in drawing attention to the Yoruba race through your numerous activities. It is gratifying to note that the Yoruba race has put its ethnic history at work in the construction of its identity in Nigeria from time immemorial. This has given birth over time to several nationalist movements that have made significant contribution to the development of the Nigerian state. Equally, they have been able to create a cultural pride and a sense of history that establishes a common interest among different Yoruba subgroups in form of pan-Yoruba interest, which forms the basis for the people's imagination of a nation. Through their historical consciousness within the socio-political space in which Yoruba people are located, they have employed activism both at colonial and post-colonial periods to demand for increasing access to political and economic resources for their kindred through constructive agenda. Among the core values of Yoruba activism are respect for human dignity, accommodation of divergent views, peaceful coexistence, and promotion of excellence. These are the values that we hold in high esteem without compromise at Leeds City University. This university is a trailblazer as the first private university in Oyo State, Nigeria, setting the pace in the field of knowledge advancement through a culture anchored on self-reliance. I invite our 395 participants at the 7th Professor J. Atanda Lectures and Conference to find the time to explore a serene environment. I also invite you all. On behalf of the Chairman of Council, members of management, and the entire staff and students of this great university, I welcome you to our campus and wish you an enjoyable stay in the city of Ibadan. I fervently hope that this year's edition of the Professor J. Atanda Conference and Lectures will live up to its billing by further deepening the frontiers of Yoruba activisms through this gathering of scholars, well-researched paper presentations, and robust discourses. It is my pleasure to declare the 7th Professor J. Atanda Lectures and Conference open. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you very much, Vice Chancellor, sir. Right, it is now time for our keynote address. And the keynote address will be delivered by Chief Dr. Akin Oshuntokun, a political scientist, a strategist, and an administrator par excellence. May I respectfully ask our keynoter to rise? Thank you, sir, for doing that, while his citation is read. Chief Dr. Akin Oshuntokun, MFR. Chief Akin Oshuntokun is a distinguished figure in both politics and media. His career is a testament to his exceptional leadership and profound expertise. Born on November 24, 1961 in Oke-Imesi, Ekiti, he holds a BSc in Political Science, Mass Communication and Economics, and an MSc in International Relations, all from the University of Lagos. Chief Oshuntokun has held numerous influential positions, including Director General of the Labour Party Presidential Campaign Council and Managing Director of the News Agency of Nigeria. His extensive career also features roles as political advisor to the president, member of various presidential advisory panels, and a notable contributor to global and national media. His leadership extends to his fellowship with esteemed institutions such as the Nigeria Academy of Letters and the School of Global Area Studies at the University of Oxford. His achievements have been recognized by numerous awards, including the National Honor of Member of the Federal Republic, MFR. And he is listed in prestigious directories and accolades for his contributions to political science, media, and policy. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Chief Akin Oshuntokun, Fellow, Nigeria Academy of Letters, Fellow, Nigeria Institute of International Affairs, Fellow at the School of Global and Area Studies, University of Oxford. Ladies and gentlemen, Chief Oshuntokun.
Thank you very much. My predecessor just left the stage. Permits me to accept or join the existing protocols. But there are one or two people that I personally need to recognize. One, of course, is my long-standing friend, who were also happy that he's a king. And one of our friends who had just been made is someone for Goodwill. So I don't know who's going to be next. And my senior sister and my husband, Professor Mrs. Sinu Faboya. I thank you. She has been a stabilizing force in our extended family. We are quite a large family, and she has been playing a role effectively. When Professor Falola invited me to come and be the keynote speaker, so what first came to my mind was that maybe he was mistaking me for my uncle. Okay. Yeah, maybe he was mistaking me for my uncle. He and my uncle, they're friends, they're colleagues. Both of them are quite outstanding historians. So when he sent an email to me, I said, "Oh, sir, I think you got the wrong email address, and that my uncle's email address is so." So he responded, I said, "No, it's you that I want." Now, of course, it's an experience I've gone through several times. Some of you good, some bad. There was a time many years ago that my uncle asked me to read a paper on his behalf in Abuja. So I was reading the paper and people kept on applauding. So at the time I said, "Please, you have to realize that this is not my paper." So maybe you will moderate. Maybe you will moderate your. See, the other was during the Abacha regime. See, I was on the editorial board of the Guardian newspaper, and I was writing a weekly column, which was quite critical. of the Abacha regime. So they picked up my uncle. Unfortunately, I was detained for 6 months. So I have an idea that probably they were looking for me, not him, because he's Akinjide and Makintola, so Akin. So in my next column, and I also wrote a letter to them that please, people make this mistake, confusing both of us together. That if it is me you want, please, I'm available. They said no. Whichever one of you will get is. There's something that we call the Ashanike doctrine. The late Olubadan said there was one man called Audu Sokoto who committed an offense. So they were looking for him all over Ibadan. They couldn't find Audu Sokoto. So they came back and told him that they could only find Audu Kanu. He said they should bring him. So why now? Well, Professor Falola, of course, it goes without saying that is easily the most, one of the most distinguished Africa has produced. But to me, that's a global achievement. Well, for me personally, and he and Professor Wole Soyinka, they have one quality that I admire very well. And that is the ability to mentor. Yeah. Professor Falola goes out of his way to mentor him. So I want to use this podium to pay him that personal tribute. May you live long, and may your pain never run dry. I more or less impose what I'm going to read to you by myself. I mean, I think that is a privilege that keynote speakers have. You can choose what you want to talk. So I've chosen a topic that I think is of utility, to contemporary Nigeria. And the title of the piece is From Max Weber to Onumila, Ifa in comparative sociology. So I have here, I think that to tease you into the main body of the paper. So I call them departure points. The first one is that because by understanding my historian, it's not in Nigeria, Robin Hood. He said for the modern Yoruba intelligentsia, Ifa is the index of Yoruba wisdom and cultural excellence. The second is from Epega. He classified those who are interested in Ifa into 3 categories. So one are the professionals, obviously, the priests and diviners. The second are the devotees and worshippers. And the third are philosophers who are seeking wisdom and knowledge. I think I want to belong in that category. Ifa is a victim, first and foremost, of colonialism, and its inherent requirement to delegitimize the pre-colonial history of Africa. John Paul Sartre calls it the sinister strategy of erasing native identities, in which the aim is to supplant indigenous culture with the colonizer's own, leaving the population in a vacuum of identity. It's a measure of the success of this delegitimation that it was with considerable anxiety and reluctance that I ultimately decided to enter IFA as a fit and proper subject of public communication. Next one is issue. Amongst the 4 or 5 main divinities, the original damage to the reputation and local standard of Eshu was inflicted by the mischaracterization of Bishop Samuel Ajayi Crowther in his mistranslation of the Bible to Yoruba language. In his relative ignorance and religious fervor, he wrongly equated the biblical Satan with Eshu. Now, the tragedy of Crowther's life was a racist refusal of the Anglican Communion religious establishment to accept his elevation to the status of bishop. If Christianity was of virtue, as he believed, he would not have suffered this rude awakening. He would not. That said, you have to understand the context within which Crowther was operating. First, unless he was an initiate, his knowledge and understanding of Eshu was essentially limited. It is in the nature of those days that premium was placed on opacity and secrecy in contraposition to the universality of language and information culture that we have inherited. The truth, of course, is that Eshu does not have an English name. Just the way Sango, Ogun, Obatala, Osun, and others, they don't have English name. Eshu is Eshu. He is just a messenger who bears messages, good or bad. That's why you need to supplicate. It does not possess all those bad features that were ascribed to him by the Bible. People should therefore stop judging Yoruba traditions, customs, beliefs, and spirituality as sinful by Judeo-Christian orthodoxy. I agree with Professor Sophie Oluwole, may her soul rest in peace, that it is heretical to identify or characterize African thought from definitions derived from Western concepts and traditions of thought. To discover these texts which exist in the authenticity of their language, Each group in Africa and in Nigeria has a body of thought that exists in oral tradition. Be it Bantu, Edo, Hausa, Igbo, Swahili, Wolof, and Yoruba, and other African languages. The same way, Hume wrote in English. Immanuel Kant wrote in German. Rousseau wrote in French. And that was what made Ngigwe Tiogo, who was of the conviction that African situations will not be expressed well in English language, because such will end up in category mistake. Of course, you recall that James Ngugi, since discarded writing in English. The other one is monogamy. Professor when I told him about what I was going to say, he said he hopes that I will be able to say a lot of Odufa verses in the paper. So this one is on monogamy. And we will know the reason why I chose it presently. But I will read it to you first. Ọ̀kan ṣoṣo péré ló bìí odò. Bí wọ́n bá di mẹ́ta, wọ́n á di ẹ̀tàǹtúlé. Bí wọ́n bá di mẹ́rin, wọ́n á di ìwọ lórí mi ni mo rí ọ. Bí wọ́n bá di márùn-ún, wọ́n á di kà. Bí wọ́n bá di mẹ́fà, wọ́n á di àjẹ́. Well, see me later. Now, see, typically, if you want to compare, you are into comparative religion. They don't just prescribe, they reason with you. They tell you if you say something is bad, they will give you the explanation. Now you can see the way he has provided the reason why, if you want to go into polygamy, what you are entering into. By the way, he didn't took his own advice. He had many wives. No, but listen to what the Bible had to say of polygamy. He said, the ideal choice for a man is one wife. When there are two, sorry. Therefore, a man shall leave his father and his mother and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. That is the only thing. So why? Yeah, that's just a prescription. Take it or leave it. It's a stipulation, stipulation. Well, I think you can compare it with the kind of, the reasons only I gave. And it gives you the free will, to choose what you want to do, but at least you know what you are getting into. The next one is a touchstone. A touchstone is a subject matter I bandy around a lot. A touchstone is a belief or claim that a group of people are indigenous to a particular land or region. So when we comment a touchstone, we are saying that a state should derive from the indigenous community, and that to the extent that it does not, is the extent to which that society is likely to fail. For instance, there was not a prior Nigerian society from which the Nigeria state originated. And it is to this extent that Nigeria has failed. On the other hand, imagine a Yoruba potential state. A Yoruba potential state was saying that the Yoruba state will have fulfilled the sociological requirements of autochthony because there is a prior indigenous Yoruba society from which it has evolved. It is in this respect that we talk of continuity and discontinuity between state and society. So there is a state-society continuity in a potential Yoruba state, which is lacking in the Nigerian state. Adjunct to the theme of political autochthony is the African philosophical thought tradition, whose most remarkable attribute is the extent to which it has been systematically repressed and dismissed by Western philosophers and their African disciples. Worthy of note is the experience of the late Professor Sophie Oluwole. His a PhD proposal to the University of Ibadan in 1977 was rejected because the title, the rational basis of Yoruba ethical thinking, was declared a myth and not philosophy. She was then compelled to write on the British philosopher. Now, let me go to the topic proper. So, 15 minutes more. What? I would like the audience decide. Adapting Max Weber, The Spirit of Capitalism and the Protestant Ethic, to the Yoruba heritage of the indigenous religion and sociology of Ifa. My thesis is that as a theoretical proposition, Weber's Protestant ethic and the spirit of capitalism, henceforth abbreviated as Protestant ethic, finds parallel in the integration and synthesis of Obatala, the concept of Ori and Iwa in the Yoruba cosmological order. In my formulation of this analogy, Ori is the independent variable, while Obatala and Iwa are the interdependent and intervening variables. It is not exactly clear what Professor Wande Abimbola had in mind when he pronounced that the various branches of Ifa literary corpus do not conform with any branches of modern language, of modern academic knowledge. I argue to the contrary. My proposition is that a critical component of Western sociology, that of Weber, is adaptable to branches of Ifa sociology corpus. Weber contends that the Protestant ethic made possible and encouraged the development of capitalism in the West. This, in essence, is an adumbration and restatement of the larger historical association between Christianity and Western civilization. Throughout its history, Western civilization has been nearly equivalent to Christian culture, As it evolved, the civilization became a culmination of such transformative episodes as the Renaissance, the Reformation, the Enlightenment, the Industrial Revolution, scientific revolution, and the development of liberal democracy. The widely shared view, for instance, you are the one. The widely shared view is, for instance, that the common law is rooted in Christianity and the prevailing Western secular dispensation, the separation of state from religion, is an evolution from the pronouncement of Jesus Christ, to the effect that give unto Caesar what is Caesar and give unto God what is God. The qualities and the circumstances that Weber portrayed as unique to Europe and which he delimited as a formula for the interpretation of capitalist development are generally constitutive of a predisposition towards socioeconomic development. It is a general rule that a culture must be utilitarian and dynamic in order for it to endure and thrive. And it is otherwise doomed to collapse under the weight of its internal contradictions. The imperative of this requisite cultural renewal aptitude was what informed the reconceptualization of the Calvinist doctrine of this destination. The director of events told me that I have, should I go? That I have 15 minutes to go, and I'm sure I've already spent 5 minutes out of the 15 minutes. You know, the funny thing was that I guessed I was going to the thesis. concept, which is Iwa. Now, Iwa is the fact that Iwa Loba Wure, you know, that without Iwa, she was successful because he was married to Iwa first. Everybody started looking for Iwa all over the place. So the translation of that is that Iwa is in active demand by everybody that if you want to succeed, you have to integrate Iwa, into your behavior, into your character. Only, of course, there are so many things that comment it. That is said, and also very realistic. Like he said, ìgbà tí orí ń gbé yín, níbo ni òrìṣà wà? Ó ní àbá fi òrìṣà lẹ̀ ká bọ orí ẹni. A ní ìpínyà ju oògùn, orí jẹ́ ju ewé lọ. These are, exaltations of Ori. But the important thing about it is that it is the same phenomenon as the concept of predestination in the West. That's in the West, the concept of predestination went through a transformation, was reconceptualized to say that, look, you are not fated. You are not going to end in doom. Whatever you do, whatever your personal merits, right? If you are doing so. But Ifa has already Ori has already taken this into consideration, that Ori, for you to realize, what it promises it must be guided by, it must be, undergirded by good works. Now, the Calvinists then became extraordinarily successful. They were the kind of ascetic people, hardworking, some kind of an archetype. So if you have studied Obatala in Yoruba tradition, Obatala, Obatoniala, that is Obatoni, that is associated with white, some things, good things, peace, dignity, harmony. But the thing that of those Calvinists corresponded very well to that of Obatala. Now, I'm trying my best to explain what this is all about. But it's an intricate subject matter, that demands a lot more than a 20 or 30 minutes that I'll be giving. So maybe I should just read the last page. So what I don't know to the extent I've succeeded. What I was saying was how you correspond with the thesis is how that Protestant ethic corresponds to a concept, of Ifa. So this is the essence of, if I were to break it down to, so let me see what I can do with the remaining 2 minutes. Very well. In conclusion, in Yoruba mythology, Ajay is the goddess that brings fortune, wealth, and economic prosperity, and Olokun appearance. When Olokun was offended by her husband, allegedly Oduduwa, she left him and retreated to the bottom of the seabed, where she often exhibited displeasure by fomenting seagoing accidents. The role ultimately fell on Obatala to neutralize and capture her and made her his companion. It was this acquisition that Obatala became the god of Ajay. This is a ritual dramaturgy of how Obatala came to be closely associated with wealth and prosperity. He captured the essence of economic prosperity and brought it to live with him. Symbolically and coincidentally, the city of Ile-Ife, where he lived and over which he once presided, was the first bastion of capitalism in Yoruba antiquity. It is evocative of this legend that reference is usually made to the early importance of Ife as an entry port through which a variety of goods moved from north and south. This added to considerable body of evidence that points to the city's early importance as manufacturing center. This paper will be reprinted. Are you anxious to read it? Signification the divine essence of morality. Obatala is the ideal type correlate of the Latin. You at this moment is to leave you with it. I'm sure that will be easy for you to grasp and take along to where you are going. So the prayers, well, if the responsibility is accepted, the task is cut out for the Yoruba intelligentsia to take up the inevitable challenge of fostering and widening the boundaries of Ifa ownership through a programmatic iteration of its pedagogic emphasis on morality. Rationality demands that you need to understand precisely what you are running away from before taking to your heels. Otherwise, you'll be running blind. Let me now leave you with a prayer from Orunmila. He said, "Ìhòhò láàrin wáyé, Èdùmàrè má jẹ́ ká rin ìhòhò padà lọ sọ́run. Ẹkún la sun wáyé, Èdùmàrè má jẹ́ ká sunkún padà lọ sọ́run. Inú ẹ̀jẹ̀ la tọ̀ wáyé, Èdùmàrè má jẹ́ ká tọ inú ẹ̀jẹ̀ padà lọ sọ́run. Òdì méjì, ádìmọ̀ ikú, ádìmọ̀ àrùn, ádìmọ̀ kùrùkùrù wélé fún gbogbo wa. Thank you very much. That's the best I can do.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much. I think the first thing that I noticed in that presentation that really surprised me is that Eshu is not the devil. That was quite fascinating. He's not the biblical devil, but a deity. That is interesting. I didn't know that. Thank you very much, sir, for enlightening us. All right, just a few more recognitions. We have in our midst the very first Professor J.A. Atanda Memorial Lecturer, the very first lecturer to deliver the lecture series. We have in our midst Professor Ademola Ajayi. Can you stand up for recognition, sir? Thank you so much for being here, sir. Thank you very much. We also want to bring the Dean, Faculty of Arts, Leeds City University, Ibadan. Thank you for coming out of your busy schedule. We appreciate you. Before you arrived, Professor Falola instituted an award for the best student in the Faculty of Arts for Leeds City University. So that is starting. He has instituted that today. So we're very happy and we're looking forward to the recipient of that award at our next convocation. Next up. All right, I've been asked to invite Associate Professor Angela Robin to the front table here. And the very first lecturer, Professor Ademola Ajayi, please come forward to the table here, please. Thank you very much. While that is happening, I would like to take a few goodwill messages. But before that, I know that Professor Falola wants to introduce our guest, our special guest. So I'd like to call on Professor Falola to do that, please, to introduce our special guest, Professor Shinyo Oyeweso. Okay.
Hope you are enjoying the program. I will get the paper from Dr. Osuntokun for circulation. I've been following his academic essay. He has considerable density, theories, strength in comparative analysis, and that is why I invited him. The Osuntokun family is a treasure to this country. Their patriarch was a minister in the First Republic. And they were part of the agency that transformed what we now call Ekiti State. And part of Osun State, they played transformational role. And it's an interesting family. Within the same family, sometimes they split into two different political parties as family members. And the man who stood before you is a rantan man of Obi. He's an obedient person. He's very, very top in the political echelon. And his brother is for Tinubu. So that is how we should live as a people, as a nation, as a family. You are a Muslim, I'm a Christian. We don't fight. You are a woman, I'm a man. There's no reason to fight. And we should use occasions like his presence to keep making appeal that do not allow politicians to divide us. Thank you very much. Our main guest of Honor the Kabiyesi is also the Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of Council of Obafemi Awolowo University. I knew him when he was like this. He was both my undergraduate student and originally I was his PhD supervisor. Before I japa. And I'm hosting a party for him on Sunday. We've invited like 150 people to celebrate with him. Those of you who are older here, don't predict the success of your students. Just teach them. Their future will be determined by God, not by you. You understand? And if somebody doesn't do well in your class, find a way to put it nicely. You cannot ask a fish to come to land and climb the tree. The fish cannot climb a tree. And you cannot say, I'm judging you by your capacity for tree climbing. I don't believe in the concept of a dropout. It is just because you have not understood the skill of that person. I'm a high school dropout. I only spent 2 years in high school. How did I become a distinguished professor? There's no dropout. There's nobody who does not know something. It is just our failure to recognize that knowledge. Professor Iweso grew to become a distinguished historian, winning so many awards, studied wars, studied personalities, he writes on biography, he writes on so many things. And I told the organizer that they should give me the pleasure of introducing him. And I'm very proud of him. Very, very proud of him. If you go to the main street after the new hotel, you will see Professor Shinya Iweso Road. It's done very well. Please come and say something to us.
The convener of this epoch-making event. You see, in history, watershed rarely happens. But today is the watershed, not just in African history, but also in Yoruba history. I'm standing on the shoulder of giants. The proprietor of this university was my teacher then at the University of Ife, Professor Jide Oweye. We read his works on international relations from page 1 to the last page. And we thank God.
He's the first professor, the only academic who established a university. Go to State University.
I entered this university. I've been here several times. But what I have seen today is a manifestation of God's professor in the way they look at us. It's a barometer of success. It's an exemplar to any good academic that there is a place up there in the sky for anybody who wants to excel. Professor Jide Oweye, I congratulate you for this phenomenal achievement you have made in the higher education sector. You have granted Ibadan, in spite of the fact you are not an Ibadan man. It is possible for you to establish it in any place in Ijesha land. You have chosen the cockpit, the heartbeat of the nation. to establish this. I thank you. I want to congratulate my own teacher. My own mentor. You see, there are three of them. They didn't. First is Professor Elisha Palace Organization. Abiodun Adediran, or your, Elisha Ife Palace Organization, and Tali Omole, or your Palace Organization. So when I wanted to write my own PhD, my first degree project, I just took the three essays in the department. And I wrote on the times to 1960. Study of Ede and history. And today, I can have been well studied. Ede is like Ibadan, or Ibadan is like Ede. Because Ede started as an army with a state, not a state with an army. Ibadan started as an army with a state. So in the two contexts, you will see that we have done justice to Ede. And due credit must be given to my Oga. Secondly, when I was about to commence my PhD program, I wasted 2 years. My focus was on military in Liberian politics. I'd done all field work, everything. It was just to travel to Liberia. And a mock examination was organized for me. And somebody just asked me, is there a Liberian military? By that time, Liberia had become a warlord state. Tribal armies are taking over. Chris Modibi and a lot of others have been killed. That was how I dropped the project on Liberian military. I now opted to do political philosophy of Mokugo Okoye. It was Professor Tony Falola who gave me notes to Mokugo Okoye, who was then one of the radical Zikists and former president. And I lived with the man in number 3, Obioma Street, at Charale House, Enugu, free of charge. And I was able to have access to his complete works, which I requested for. So if today I was able to do an original study in Nigeria's intellectual history, I give credit to you. And my supervisor, when you left, when you JAPA, first generation JAPA professors, and Dr. Shegun Oshoba, the radical historian and scholar, the author, one of the authors of the minority draft on the 1979 Constitution, Shegun Oshoba of Ijebu-Ode, the radical Marxist with Bala Usman was the person who completed my PhD supervision. I walk up to him when people were running from other, unquote, difficult lecturers. I said, sir, I want you to be my supervisor. So he's now he's 90 now. We were there in Ijebu-Ode, December 2023 to celebrate him. May he continue to be blessed with excellent health. There are 3 or 4 takeaways from this lecture. Issue is not Satan. If you want to read more, go and read Danoye Laguda, inaugural lecture of Lagos State University. They call him Issue because his PhD thesis is on issue. So most of us who are now Arabis, Muslim, Christians, Maronites, and all the rest of us, we need to go into deep understanding of Yoruba religion and Yoruba philosophy. The University of Ibadan had done good study on issue from our first patriarch of the Methodist Church. I've forgotten his name now. Professor Idowu. Anybody go and read it. Read his work all over again. About women, I just want to extrapolate, discuss a little bit further on the concept of Oyekumeji. Oyekumeji will deal with what you can do to avert death. But it's also a warning about how deal with women. And my sister, he has a take home that when he gets home, she will tell her husband to avoid Ojowu and to avoid Dr. What's the second? Atanda. You know, if women wants to destabilize the house, they are masters in that. If you marry 4 or 5, they can become Ika. Or if you marry the 6th, it can become Àwọn Ìyá Mi. But in all things, the only thing he didn't have the dimension of Islamic faith. In Islam, we do respect to people who read the scripture in the literal and ordinary sense. In Islam, it is said, "O ye who believe, marry women of your choice, 2, 3, or 4. But if you fear that you shall not be able to deal justly with them, marry only 1." So in Islam, monogamy is the exception. Polygamy or polygyny is the rule. An exception my imam once told me that in Islam, and she marriage, she marry she marriage, she marry eta, she marry erin, awa momisi. That all of them should be of good behavior. But it's been copied by Christians today. Most of the Christians today have more than 1 wife. But they will pretend that only one is at home. It's only at the point of that you now see other packages. The lesson, finally, to be taken away from this is for those of us who are all here. The first generation Professor Atanda was our external examiner in the then University of Ife. I'm not talking about Obafemi Awolowo University. He was also with us, external examiner at Lagos State University, where I rose to become a professor in 2004. Professor Atanda assessed my publication. I discovered that later in the file when I became head of department to the post of senior lectureship in 1991. So you will see that for us who are students of society, students of history, we read Atanda from Pali to Pali. We read Akinjobin, everything from that generation. Robin Law. If you want to study Yoruba history, and you don't start with these great masters, you are just continuing yourself. After Atanda, our professor in the Institute of African Studies, Baba Yemi, also followed the tradition in your studies, or your laughing studies. So today, we thank God for Professor Falola, who has been able to assemble the publications of J. Atanda into 1 volume and so many other works. We want to do same for Professor Akinjobin. We've done that for Dr. Segun Oshoba. And many of our historians who belong to the ages now, please, everybody is his own historian. If you don't write your history, some other people will write it for you. On this note, the study of microhistory is very, very essential to nation building. I thank the Atanda family for being a role model exemplar and for sustaining the tradition of the Atandas.
I'm not the MC of this program, but the people that I'm inviting to talk, I took their permission to let me introduce them. And I want to call on Kabiyesi. I don't know whether I should talk about our relationship or you allow you to talk about it, please start with it. We grew up together. We did not know he would become a KBC, and he did not know I would become a professor. But let him take over the story and tell it. KBC, please.
To the Atanda family, I congratulate you for doing a good job. I think I'm a member of the family because Wale Kunte a lot of people don't know that Wale is Kunte. Only few of us can mention that name. Wale Kunte Atanda. Chief, stand up. Stand up, Wale. Please clap for him. I'm so happy that the family is instituting a tradition that is noble, that is enduring, that the grandchildren can learn from who their grandfather was. Your grandfather was a former commissioner chieftaincy in the old Oyo State under David Jembemo. And that was the time you were in the university. Wale was one of the finest disc jockeys in Ibadan land that time. And we were moving from one club to the other, rocking as small boys and stealing, in quotes, daddy's car to go to parties and return the car by 5 a.m. in the morning. And we are now scared of our own children now. Kashopai, where are you? Where are you going? Did you tell me before you? You. Because we lived that part too. It's just to tell the audience that I'm a member of the family. And we thank God for this day. We are here for just a while. Professor Toyin Falola was my egbon while growing up. He's 70, 71 now. He was sending us to his girlfriend in those days. And the issue, please. And now, above 60, going 70, above 70, we are old. And we must hand over well for the coming generation. And that's where I thank Aki for that brilliant piece. I didn't know anything about Ifa until I became the Orongun in Okela. And I'm interested in Ifa now. Beautiful philosophy. Patience. Iwa. What you need to develop the next generation. Activism. That's what we are known for. But we must be able to build. How do we build Yoruba land? You have crises in the polity. I was coming from Bodija. I took Adeoyo, Vabere. I saw the old buildings, the big buildings of food. Then my mind all the big buildings in Ibadan of old, they are now Auru. So, building mansions, people around you suffering. Don't you think we need to learn? Life is so short. Life is so transient. The Nigerian elite, Yoruba elite, we need to proceed and build a better society. Let us use our time well. I commend the Atanda family for doing a good job. God bless you. God bless the generations after you. May the good name of Professor Atanda continue to grow in leaps and bounds. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Please keep your hands together for Kabiesi as he goes back to his seat. Thank you very much, sir. It is interesting to hear the exploits, isn't it? What they got up to as young people. Sometimes it's hard to imagine that our elders were young before. So it's good to be able to see that today. Thank you so much, Kabiesi. Thank you, sir. I'd like to recognize the presence of Dr. Ademola Atanda. I know Kabiesi already recognized him, but I want to do that officially. Thank you very much, sir, for your presence. The Provost Postgraduate College, Leeds City University, Professor Afolakemi Eredein. Thank you, ma, for being here. Thank you, ma. Professor Abiodun Salau from Northwest University in South Africa, all the way from South Africa. Thank you, sir, for coming. And the Dean, Faculty of Education, Professor Donald Odeleye. Thank you, sir, for your presence. Now we're going to take goodwill messages, and we're going to request, please, that you keep the messages at 2 minutes or less. Please, because of our time, 2 minutes or less. The first person that I will call is the head of History Department, University of Ibadan. That is Professor Rashid Olani. Please come up, sir, to give your goodwill message. All right, next person is the librarian of Leeds City University. Professor Ajayi. Professor Ajayi gave the first ever Atanda lecture series, the first lecture in the series. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. It's Kabiesi, sir. Yeah, it's always my pleasure whenever I meet the Kabiesi. You've attended some of my own public lectures. The Onyolola lecture that I delivered last at Ilaoragon. Yes, so it's always a pleasure, sir. The Atanda family, Chief Wale Atanda, it's my pleasure meeting you again. Auntie Joke, thank you very much. The convener, Professor Tony Falola, is a model in the academia. We are always proud to be associated with him. We're always proud to be associated with him. And my good friend, Professor Shinya Oyeweso, Pro-Chancellor, Chairman, Governing Council of Obafemi Awolowo University. You're also welcome. I'm also a member of the Atanda family. Kabiesi said he's a member of the Atanda family. Yes, as I tell people, I'm always proud to be associated with family. I'm the last one of Professor Atanda. Yes, in what respect? The last PhD student of Professor J.A. Atanda. Yes. So I regard myself as his last intellectual or last academic born. Professor Atanda had, as he still has, is a living being, 3 children: biological children, academic children, spiritual children. So of all the academic children, I'm the last born. Yes. And by the grace of God, I was privileged to deliver the first J.A. Atanda Memorial Lecture some years back at the Jogo Center. Yes. It's a worthy legacy, my Baba, on Thank you very much, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. You are welcome.
Thank you very much, sir. The next goodwill message will be taken from the librarian of Leeds City University, Dr. Olanrewaju Oshani.
I acknowledge and celebrate our KBAC here seated. I also celebrate the Atanda family, for collaborating with Leeds City to organize this conference. And the convener of the conference. When I stepped into this hall earlier in the morning or earlier in the day, and I saw the mode of dressing of everybody, I said to myself, you didn't dress well for this program. But when I saw the chairman of the organizing committee, I was a little bit more comfortable because he put on a dress, English dress as well, you know. There's no doubt in my mind that this conference is going to be full of wisdom, word of wisdom, for the participants that are registered for this conference. I personally, just like some others have expressed earlier, I gained something from what the keynote from the keynote address of our speaker, Professor Oshuntokun. I got to know for the first time that issue is not the devil. I think that's a very serious misconception, you know, and I think we need to do something about that to propagate that the more, because many people don't know about that. So I believe this conference is going to be filled with such wealth of wisdom and deeper understanding of Yoruba. I want to request from the organizer of this conference, particularly the convener. The Leeds City University is now offering Yoruba as a program in the university. And I believe the body of knowledge, this conference, the proceeding of a conference like this will constitute a major part of the body of knowledge of Yoruba. So we want to request that the earlier series from series number 1 or from 1 to 6, you will make it available to us at Leeds City University. We would like to acquire all the past series together with the proceeding of this particular one. I want to thank you on behalf of Leeds City University for collaborating with us, you know, to organize this conference. And I wish everybody a rewarding time as you during this conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. The next person to call is Associate Professor Angela Robin, the Dean, Faculty of Arts, Leeds City University.
Thank you very much. Kábíyèsí, mo kí yín sá o, adé apẹ́ lórí, bàtà apẹ́ lẹ́sẹ̀. I very much want to thank the convener and of course the organizers of this conference. Before I give my goodwill, I'll first of all want to appreciate Professor Toyin Falola for instituting an award in honor of the best graduating students in the Faculty of Arts. Please, I would like the house to please give a rousing applause in appreciation for that. As the university librarian has said, we are proud as a private university to boast of a department of Yoruba linguistics in this university. We are so excited that we are pioneering the study of Yoruba, its history, and of course, the scientific study of the Yoruba language in a private institution. So we thank you, sir, so much for that award. I also want to say something about Kábíyèsí. Some years back, we had visited Kábíyèsí and his initiative to sponsor, to nurture young people in his hometown. As a matter of fact, I was awed, sir, by what we met on ground in terms of giving back to the society. So when Kábíyèsí stands there to say we should build a society, he says that with all authority. And we have learned from you, sir. And so we are also doing, and I can also say categorically that Leeds City University is doing such. We are giving back to the society. Under the auspices of the Faculty of Arts, we have initiated a lot of programs to promote culture. Just last year, we have hosted Domoge Asha, earlier in the year, sorry, which is an initiative to empower the girl child and to of course reintegrate the values of culture when it comes to the females in Nigeria in our society. So once again, I want to thank the Atanda family, and most especially the men and women who have been, the working force behind putting together this conference, from the planning committee to the sponsors. We hail you. Thank you very much. And thank you for collaborating with Leeds City University, Ibadan. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Associate Professor Angela Robin. I want to recognize, please, the presence of Dr. Adewale Atanda. Apologies for the error before. Thank you very much. Now we call on Dr. Fatunde, Dr. Adejoke Fatunde, to speak on behalf of the family. Can we applaud her as she comes up, please?
Good afternoon, everybody. Today is indeed a notable day for every member of the Atanda family. First, I want to thank Kabiesi, the Orongun of Ila. Is Kabiesi, so he's indeed a brother. He's been friends with my brother for a long, long time. And I'm sure if you want more stories of those youthful escapades, you need to see Kabiesi later, because my brother will not volunteer. But yes, I'm aware of the cars slowly sliding down the garage and coming back before 5 a.m. when it was prayer time. So it was from party to prayer. So thank you very much, Kabiesi. He has been at every Atanda conference, and we do not take his presence for granted. To the chairman of the Governing Council of Leeds University, I want to say thank you. Thank you very much for accommodating us and for hosting us. I know he does not like to be highlighted, but I cannot but say thank you to him. The Vice Chancellor of Leeds University and all the staff. It has been a great pleasure and an honor to be at your beautiful campus. I'm truly, truly impressed. To the guest speaker, the chairman of this event, the keynote speaker, I say a big thank you. I certainly learned a lot. I'm going to take that message back to my better avoid the Ojowu. So you see, I remain queen of my. So that's the message I'm taking back to him. And I'm sure I have the full support of the Fatundes. They will back me up. To the convener of the conference, Professor Toyin Falola, we are ever grateful for his leadership and guidance in directing us on every activity related to that memory and legacy. Alagba, as I fondly call him, Eko wa Jekwesa, Ajupe, that is, you'll be anchoring this conference for a long, long time. Amen. To the conference organizing committee, ably led by Professor Oyedokun, I cannot say thank you enough. They are meeting all the time. In fact, in the last 2 days, I refused to look at the chat group because up until early hours of today, it was still messages back and forth on do this, do that. We have to wear this and all that. They have worked tirelessly. And we thank you very much for all the efforts that you have put into putting this conference together. To the participants and presenters, 297 of you, we are indeed indebted to you for taking the time to do this. This event won't be holding if we had no one submitting abstracts, participants who are here to share their knowledge and to eventually submit full papers that can then be recorded as record of this conference. You have taken your time to share your thoughts and knowledge. You are here to network with other bright minds. This is indeed a great gift to all of us. Like I said, I learned something a lot from Dr. Shintokun's lecture. I'm going to read the paper, but of course, the low-hanging fruit I have picked and I'm holding on to. We wish you a smooth flow of information as you exchange ideas and soak up new knowledge as you network with other people. To our friends who are here to support us, KBAC is an example, but there are a lot more. I said thank you, especially to my sisters, both from UI and Queen's School, who have been with me for a long, long time. My brothers also have their own friends who have stuck with them. And we are all indeed blessed to have you in our lives. May God always keep us all together. To members of the larger Atanda family, you have been a constant support to us children of Professor J. Atanda. We are all Atandas. And believe me, if I have the chance for another life, I only still want to be born into the Atanda family. We cannot thank the dead, but I cannot but thank God enough for the Father who gave 10 of us life. We have all learned a lot from him. Sometimes when we get together and we remember, Dad used to say this, Dad did this, Dad did that. Every one of us have our own encounter, our own, unforgettable moments. But one thing that I'm sure all of us can live with is his capacity of outreach. He always wanted to reach out to so many people. He had such a large heart. And through that, we have acquired uncountable academic and spiritual siblings as well. They have all played different roles in our life. And so we thank God that he gave us that, the capacity to outreach. Finally, to God Almighty, we give thanks for this event, for his sustaining power, each and every one of us to do. I'm especially thrilled this year to see 3 of the grandchildren here who have been so immersed in the program, there was no stopping them. It was like, whether you guys like it or not, we are going to be there. And I thank God that they are here. Thank you, everybody, for being here. There was enough uncertainty, protest, and whatever, but you are here. And that has touched us immensely. Esheu, adupeu.
Thank you very much, Ma. The next item on the program now is a cultural display by the Agboraku group from Oyo Town. Enjoy the show. Let us appreciate the group, the Agboraku group from Oyo Town. Thank you all so very much for that beautiful presentation. All right, we're ready for our lead paper presentation. While we get ready for our speaker to come up, may I please encourage you all to get your pens and paper ready to take notes, because this is actually going to be very, very interesting. Our lead paper presenter is Dr. Lasisi Olagunju. He's an editor and columnist at the Nigerian Tribune. I'd like to invite him to stand. Thank you, sir, for doing that. While Olagunju is an acclaimed journalist and multiple award-winning columnist, he has distinguished himself as one of Nigeria's most influential voices in media. He was honored as the newspaper columnist of the year at the prestigious Diamond Award for Media Excellence DAME for informed commentary in 2019, 2021, 2022, and 2023. A first-class honors graduate of English Studies from Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife. Dr. Olagunju holds advanced degrees in communication arts, political communication from the University of Ibadan, and a degree in law, been recognized through numerous accolades, including the Sokoto State NYSC Honors Award and a nomination for the President's National Honors Award. Dr. Olagunju's impressive career includes roles as news editor and deputy editor of the Nigerian Tribune, chief press secretary, and special advisor on media to the governor of Osun State. He currently serves as the editor of the Saturday Tribune and continues to make significant contributions through his column, Monday Lines, and his published works, including the poetry collection, Forest Flowers, and the book, Cowries of Blood. Dr. Olagunju is married with children. His hobbies include reading, writing, and making friends. Ladies and gentlemen, please make welcome Dr. Lasisi Olagunju to the podium. Sir, you have our full attention. Keep clapping, please, until he comes to the podium. Thank you.
Kábíyèsí. Mo kí yín, sir. The convener of this conference, Professor Falola, I greet you, sir. I greet the Atanda family. When Chief Osutokun was delivering his lecture, when he was ending it, he ended with a prayer. He said, Yohulawasaye, ki Eledumare ma jẹ́ ká fi ìhòhò padà. I congratulate the Atanda family because they have a heritage that is worth celebrating. That is why we are here today. When he said that prayer, it wasn't is not about the physical cloth or dress. We are celebrating Professor Atanda today because while alive, he consciously built people who are his cloth today. I congratulate you, members of the family. There are so many ancestors here, many masters. I greet all of you.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, when Professor Falola contacted me several months ago that he wanted me to speak here, I actually forgot. I forgot for several months until one boy just threw in about less than 2 months ago and said, I'm expecting illicity in August. I said, to do what? Then he showed me the flyer. I said, Prof was leave me. So I sent it to Prof. So I saw this. He said, yes, I spoke with you in December and you agreed. I said, wow. So today I am a journalist. I'm not in the academics. I'm a journalist. My background is in literature, communication. But I will be speaking to you today on the fine art of Yoruba activism. In addressing this topic, I intend to use the past, its facts and events, and conclusions to show that Yoruba culture is a synonym for activism. So, ladies and gentlemen, I ask for your patience in advance because I'm going to tell a number of stories and I will make a lot of allusions. The king in pre-colonial Oyo had the power over everything. He determined who lived and who died. At a point in time, there was this street drummer in Oyo metropolis who moved from one point of the town to the other, plying street. And he was a master of his art. He had great skill. He had vigorous activity. He would praise those he considered praiseworthy. He would deprecate the deplorable. The people enjoyed what he did, as long as he did not make them the objects of his pillory. One day, this drummer got up early. He woke up the whole town with a strange beat and a strange message. And what was the message? Koto kambe nita oba. Ọlọ́run ó mú kò yá ni. Meaning there is a pit in front of the king's palace. God will catch him, that is the king, but it is not yet time. What is he saying? Alarm bells rang in homes and hamlets across Oyo that a drummer was spreading a strange message against the king. Is he not said that a dog is allowed to run mad, but in sanity notwithstanding, it is expected to know and avoid fire. This particular dog has a madness that obviously knew no limits. He had added the king to his list of objects of scorn. Message soon got to the king, and Allah sent for the drummer. Ngbo, what are you saying about me? And the drummer looked at Kabiyesi. He picked his drum again, and same beat. Everybody heard him loud and clear. I gasped. This one is dead. You will not be a Yoruba in those days if you did not understand the language of drums. Palace guards moved to assault him, but Kabiyesi stopped them. Kabiyesi took a long look at the drummer. He coughed and told him, go. He even gave him money for his troubles. The drummer was equally stunned by the king's verdict. He left. Then the king panned from his chiefs to his people. We must not touch him. God of welcome. Oba Kimu Okorin. The king does not arrest the bird. He said and added in very low tones that apart from the fact of a bird having immunity, touching this particular one will set the town ablaze. The people say, what is Kabiyesi saying? While it is true that the king is king over everything and everybody, this Oba knew that Onikola ki ko afin, Kosala patati pagun, no circumcise an albino, no butcher kills the vulture. He, that is the king, and a few of his trusted aides knew and understood what the drummer was saying. There was truly a deep pit in front of the king's palace. In that pit were the king's most secretive secrets. It was where he dumped unfortunate heads of his enemies. So what happened thereafter? The Alaafin ordered the pit closed. He also stopped the serial murders he was committing. The above story was given to me and my friend there, Dr. Festus Adedayo, by the late Alaafin of Oyo, Oba Lamidi Olaiwola Adeyemi Keta, in his palace a few months before he joined his ancestors in 2022. Using the Oyo drama as a representative of the essential Yoruba, I want to argue in this paper that activism to the Yoruba is a fine art, an activity requiring great skill and commitment with great accomplishment. It is my thesis here that every Yoruba person is potentially an activist. But first, there are two conceptual clarifications to make. Who is a Yoruba? What is activism? Or rather, who is an activist? The British Social Attitude Survey once sought to make an identity dimensions to identify two. It found the first group the ethnic dimension and said it contained items about birthplace, ancestry, living in the country, and sharing the people's customs and traditions. The other dimension is called the civic group. This, it said, contained items about feeling British, respecting laws and institutions, speaking English, and having British citizenship. I seek to apply the first dimension, ethnicity, to my definition of who a Yoruba is. Who is a Yoruba? Should I answer this question by saying the Yoruba is that person with Yoruba ancestry, or I should define him as one born and bred in Yoruba land, primarily in southwestern Nigeria and parts of Kwara and Kogi states? Can an immigrant acquire the Yoruba identity and be so accepted? Do you have such acquired Yoruba-ness anywhere in Yoruba land? Do you become a Yoruba simply by speaking the language, bearing a Yoruba name, or by having some salient attributes of the Yoruba? I seek to use a story to define the boundary between the authentic Yoruba and the non-Yoruba who answer Yoruba names and who speak the language. On Monday, 15 July 2024, I wrote an article that touched on the Ilorin monarchy and its Fulani cousins in Kano. 2 days after the article was published, I read online a reaction, a rejoinder, by a man who described himself as the spokesperson of the Emir of Ilorin. He wrote that I was rude to the Emir in my column. I read him and I was wondering where he got that from. So I placed a telephone call to him and I told him he probably misread what I wrote. I told him that as a Yoruba man, I was not brought up to be rude to elders, let alone the traditional ruler. The man insisted that I was rude, and as proof, he referred me to the introductory paragraph of the piece where I retold the story of the Emir dropping his Yoruba name, Kolapo, when he ascended the throne in 1995. He wrote that. He charged at me on the phone. You should not have written that. In Ilorin, we place so much value on our Emir. We don't query anything our Emir does or says. That is our tradition. When the gentleman said that, I remember the drama in Oyo and the essentiality of the Yoruba character. The Yoruba child is taught to embrace the beauty of truth and bravery. The child hears it often, that character is beauty, Iwalewa. Embracing the truth means knowing it, saying it, speaking it, and protecting it. They are also expected to respect the right of the other side to their opinion on any matter. The Yoruba ideally acknowledge and respect difference, which they recognize as an expression of Iwa. They cancel suru, patience, as a mark of respect for difference. For the Ilorin man who impressed it on me that he was proud of his Fulani roots, insisted that I should not have mentioned the Emir at all in my article. My conclusion at the end of that encounter was that this is how we act in our home. It's taboo in the home of others. But it's a word meaning. The drummer and the spokesman. The drummer and the spokesman both answer Yoruba names. Both are native speakers of the language, but they are different in ancestry, in history, and in disposition to power. The distinguishing feature in their characters is the spirit of activism. One of them, the Yoruba, is daring and questioning. The other says he is content with obeying all orders. If a government or king is irresponsible, the Yoruba takes them on. They query even the gods. They say, Orisato Luti Lambo. Meaning, we worship only deities that listen and respond when consulted. I got that from Roland Abiodun in the 1994 piece. You remember King Sani Ade? He also said something about that. He said, we're going to feel good, tí ò mówó wálé, tí ò tún lérò lẹ́yìn, ká pe gúngún yẹn tì, ká gbé gẹ̀lẹ̀dẹ́ lárugẹ. As Professor Toyin Fayola told the Nigerian Tribune newspaper on Saturday, 3 August 2024, that's 2 days ago, the Yoruba culture is democratically structured on the right to check the powers of the leaders with its many checking agencies, unquote. Yoruba society is traditionally open, but with a long history of monarchical and hierarchical organization. Nevertheless, decision-making is shared widely, consensual, rather than autocratic or dictatorial. And an elaborate series of checks and balances ensures an essentially egalitarian system. That's a quote from Pemberton and Abiodun in 1989. Akinwumi Ogundiran is the Yoruba A New History 2020 opines that Yoruba intellectuals see their civilization, say that is the river that never rests. They conceptualize the experience of time as a highly modulated continuous change that often shifts between swift and slow-moving currents, and that can be either deep or quiet or turbulent and overpowering. Anywhere you find us, the Yoruba, we exhibit the rich cultural heritage you have and the tradition of struggle and activism. We have a excellent in fighting evil and rowing against the tempests of all forms of pressure, external, all. What is activism? Who is an activist? An activist is one who advocates or practices activism. I'm quoting the Cambridge English Dictionary. The person who uses or supports strong actions, such as public protests, in support of or in opposition to one side of a controversial issue. Scholars have variously looked at what activism is. Some say it is the practice of vigorous action or involvement to achieve political or social goals. Some others probe this further. They stress that activism involves efforts to promote, impede, direct, or intervene in social, political, economic, or environmental reform. You are an activist when you organize or participate in acts of advocacy that leads potentially to change, when you organize protests and demonstrations or activate active lobbying for societal change. Now, Yoruba activism. So the Yoruba activism is an art. It is not just an art, it is a fine art, a profound product of human activity with meaning and soul. The French may espouse the theory of arts for art's sake, but with Yoruba, that is not the case. With them, every human activity has a motive, a motivation, and a function. A man does not run barefooted on the spikes of stubborn grass of activism just for the sake of running. Only a madman does that. The Yoruba believes at all times that he who runs is either pursuing something or something is pursuing him. The Yoruba people have a long and rich history of activism, characterized by their persistent struggle for justice, for autonomy, for cultural preservation. From the assertive leadership of Madam Efunsheta Aniwura and Efunroye Tinubu to the feminist and nationalist campaigns of Funmilayo Ransome Kuti, the resilient Abat Macaulay, progressive Obafemi Awolowo, the irrepressible Gani Fawemi, the honorably intransigent Wole Soyinka, Tai Solaarin, Fela Anikulapo Kuti, Ransome Kuti, Ayodele Awojobi, Femi Falana, and others. Yoruba activism has taken many forms and continues to evolve in response to contemporary challenges. This enduring tradition of activism highlights the Yoruba commitment to social justice and the significant impacts of their efforts on Nigerian society and beyond. As I interrogate the central theme of this conference, using the sub-themes as my compass, I quote again from Professor Falola's interview. There has been a need to ask whether Yoruba activities from cultural nuances are still relevant in contemporary activities of people of Yoruba origin and their inherent ability to criticize. Yoruba activism has deep historical roots, dating back to pre-colonial times, when Yoruba leaders and communities engaged in various forms of resistance against external domination and internal injustice. This legacy of activism has continued through the colonial period and into contemporary times, reflecting the Yoruba people's commitment to social justice, political autonomy, and cultural preservation. From peasants to obas and the wealthy, male and female, old and young, duty to ask questions and demand answers is sacred and sacrosanct among the Yoruba. You find this in our profile. Àìlè sọ̀rọ̀ ní ìbẹ̀rẹ̀ orí burúkú. Silence is the foundation of misfortune. Tàbí ẹni bá dákẹ́ tira rẹ̀ á bá dákẹ́. If you keep quiet when you should ask, when you should talk, your ailment will also stay quiet in your body. Then I'm now going to look at Yoruba activism as dancing masquerade. The central theme of this conference is Yoruba activisms. Note the pluralization of the head word. It is the organizers' way of saying that among the Yoruba, more than one road leads to their markets. The Yoruba culture is a dancing masquerade of many colors. If you want to discover how the Yoruba engage power and principalities, how they fight for justice and fairness, how they rein in abuse from even their own, you need to have more than 2 eyes. You need to have 200 ears, and you must open all of them. As hinted by the organizers in one of the sub-themes of this conference, Yoruba culture is indeed synonymous with resistance. Take a look at the sub-themes of this conference if you have the program, and you see for yourself how the Yoruba deploy every facet of their lives to activate Obasip and activism. The Yoruba have always produced activist Obas and chiefs. Eshuga Ayeleko was Oba of Lagos twice. He was there from 1901 to 1925 and from 1931 to 1932. Eshuga Ayi led Lagos opposition to colonial government's water tax of 1908. At his instigation, a huge protest of more than 15,000 people rattled the colonial government. He didn't hide his leadership of that movement. The Yoruba had very many other issues with the British colonial government. As a consequence of the troubles he caused, Oba Eshuga Ayi suffered deposition and removal to Oyo in 1925. His legal battle against this decision eventually paid off. He was brought back to the throne in 1932. That decision delivered by the Privy Council in London on 24 March 1931. Teslim Elias, in his Nigeria's contributions to colonial law, records as a locus classicus in our legal jurisprudence. Thank you, Kabisi. The late Alaafin of Oyo, Oba Lamidi Adeyemi, spent a great deal of his later years speaking forcefully in support of a return to true federalism in Nigeria. There are other activists, Oba, like a late senior Fede, Oba Adeto Isilaoye. Oba Laoye, a culture enthusiast and activist, said he took to public drumming as a response to the erosion of values and abandonment of Yoruba drums, because Yoruba Muslims and Christians said drumming was an act of idolatry. An Oba can also be a victim of activism if his behavior endangers the community. That is, we have activist Obas. We also have Obas who suffered from activism. because of their conduct. In a proverb, the Yoruba found an Oba involved in money ritual. They looked at him and said, Afio Joba, Otun we awuri. So very di Olodumare ni. Is there any other position bigger than the throne in the kingdom? Then deeper into history, Obas who misbehaved did not escape justice in the hands of their subjects. I am going to tell 3 or 4 stories of some Alaafin who misbehaved and suffered because their people said no to them. Alaafin Ojigi reigned a long time. Some accounts say he was the 8th Alaafin of Oyo. He was a good, very effective king. But he lost his throne and his everything to the excesses of his crown prince. This is our reference. Ahmed Johnson, author of the History of the Yorubas, tells the story, and I'm quoting him. Ojigi, who was elected to the vacant throne, was a powerful and warlike king. Personally, he was a very good man, but a too indulgent father. The Aremon, that is the crown prince, by his cruelties and excesses, brought about the father's rejection and death. He ordered Oluke, the Basharon's son, to be unlawfully beaten. And as this wrong could not be avenged without serious consequences, and as the king did not punish the wrongdoer, it was thought more expeditious to effect the king's death. For about this time, the custom began to prevail for the Aremons to die with their father, as they enjoy unrestrained liberty with the father. A pretext was soon found for rejecting the king and fond father, and consequently, he died and his eldest son with him, unquote. This king's immediate predecessor, Osinyago, suffered a similar fate. He had an Aremon who died young because, according to Johnson, he was of a grasping propensity like his father, an avaricious man who by exactions, massacre, and confiscations amassed wealth which he did not live long to enjoy. This king lost all when his second son, a lady of masculine character, out of envy and wounded, the town rose against the king and the daughter. The king had to die, his family, the entire family too. On another occasion, the same Oyo, it said that one of the early kings of Ajayi killed himself before he was publicly disgraced by an Egungun for murdering his own son, whose sin was that he was a better person in character. And so the people sang, Oku Dede, Kakewi Wakesan, Obajayi, Terigbaso. The Yoruba. Another can also, sorry. Now, let me speak on Oriki and activism. Among us, we say, Aidagboje, Kaman Lalaje. One does not become an elder without a nickname. Oriki may be called the poetry of the Yoruba. Karin Baba, an authority on Oriki, explains it this way. Sometimes translated praise poetry. Oriki are actually equivalent to names. Names which can indicate undesirable qualities, as well as desirable and which are seen as being in some way the key to a subject's essential nature. Baba says an individual as Oriki is the standard unit that refers to qualities of character or physical appearance, which can be attributed to anyone to whom they are appropriate. Others, however, will be highly specific, referring to incidents in the subject's life, often apparently trivial or even scandalous, which were at the time the topic of local gossip. New ones can be created by drummers or ordinary dancers. In Oriki Orile, you find instances of resistance to power and class exploitation. And I'm taking an Oriki, some lines from the Oriki of Olofa. Aida Bale Kasunlu. Kadabaale, kanjo jekajaka, kudabaale, kusfesun. It's not possible. Aidabaale kasunlu. Ọ̀rọ̀ kan wá panipọ̀ lọ́fà. Ọ̀rọ̀ wá panipọ̀ nílé Ọlálọ́mí. Wọ́n lọ́mọ òtòṣì Ọ̀fà. Wá lọ sódò lọ rèé pọnmi. Kọ́mọ olówó rí mu. Ọmọ òtòṣì Ọ̀fà. Ó lóun ò ní lọ sódò lọ rèé pọnmi wá. Kọ́mọ olówó rí mu. Afọ́n kò dùn. Atẹ́ kò yanu. Ọ̀rọ̀ dilé Abíọ́dún ọba Aláàfin. Atọ́ba tẹ́lẹ̀ bàbá Àjàdù. Ó lọ́mọ òtòṣì Ọ̀fà. Kó máa mọ́wọ́ lu àká ẹ̀ jẹ́jẹ́. I took that from Adeboye Babalola, Oríkì Orílẹ̀ mẹ́tàdínlọ́gbọ̀n. The translation of that thing, I've done a paraphrasing of what I just read. It is that they told the child of the poor to go to the stream and fetch water for the child of the rich to drink. But the child of the poor said no, he wouldn't go. The matter was taken to the palace of Abiodun Aláàfin. Aláàfin asked the child, the above is explained in the Yoruba ideal of equality and justice. Ìbí kò ju ìbí, bí àti bí ẹrú ni àbí ọmọ. The Yoruba also use Oríkì to celebrate hypocrisy in valor. I use Oríkì Ìlọ̀kọ̀ here. Onílọ̀kọ̀ was a warrior who was also the chief executioner of the Aláàfin of Ọ̀yọ́. He was an expert at cutting heads with one sweet swing of the sword. He succeeded so much that his Oríkì says he cultivated a farm of 10,000 heaps. And in those heaps, he planted not yam, not vegetables as others did. In his 10,000 heaps, he planted heads of his victims. Then it was his turn to die. And what was his reaction? He sinned and was to be killed. And the Oríkì says, ọjọ́ òtójọ́ tí wọ́n láwọn ó bẹ lọ̀kọ́ lórí títèwé tàgbà ìlọ̀kọ́ wá náwó nasẹ̀ lẹ̀ wọ́n ní orílẹ̀ yìí fẹ́ bẹ́ ni àbẹ́sẹ̀ ni. And the people said, the ones you killed, what did you cut? Kí ló bẹ́? A man who lived large and became famous by beheading people is asking if his own end will come through decapitation or amputation. Festival, music, and activism in Yoruba land. I started this paper with the story of the drummer in Oyo. You observe that the people of that era had no problem understanding what the drum said. Willard Rhodes was professor of music at Columbia University. He worked extensively on music in Africa in the 1950s. In October 1962, he presented a paper on African music at an Africa Studies Association conference in New York. At that conference, he told his audience that, and I'm quoting him, the drum language of certain African tribes gives them the advantage of making explicit their meaning through the music of the drums, unquote. The Yoruba are an important member of that African community that enjoys and makes meaningful use of the music of drums and its language. Obalaoye, earlier, says as much, and I'm quoting him, it is the drum that is used to send messages. Messages that are clearly understood by those who have learned the language of the drum. Yoruba people use festival, music, and drums to criticize, praise, and mobilize for action. In his album, Ilule, the late Ewi genius, Lanrewaju Adepoju, with a combination of drums, flute, and voice, attacks the government's economic policy and the hypocrisy of its operatives, who preached austerity, but lived lavish and extravagant lives. Another of Adepoju's activist works is his 1979 album, Alagbara, which, according to Adesokan 2017, I'm quoting him, draws on a variety of political and religious references to offer a critical, ecumenical commentary on the phenomenon of power. There is also Adepoju's Ìwà Ìbàjẹ́. He said, Àánú Nàìjíríà ń ṣe mí lọ́wọ́, awíwí irọ́ wọn ò létí káwíkágbọ́, ìwà ìbàjẹ́ ló fa sábàbí ọ̀rọ̀. In Ìlà Ọ̀ràngún and in its sister town, Òkè-Ìlà, there is a ceremony called Eka. I lived the early part of my life there, particularly in Ìlà Ọ̀ràngún, where I had my secondary modern school and secondary school education. I regularly watched the very fascinating Eka festival. It involves a dexterous beating of a special drum by the chief drummer, Baale Onilu of the town. The Onilu in his heart tells the history of the town's monarchy using the king list, praising Obas who did well and deploring the only one, that is in Ilaorangun, who was adjudged a traitor. Kabiyesi is here. This serves to remind the living that there is life even after rain. That story, the people of Ilaorangun, but it is there. See, Onilu bá ti ń lùlù, you will start with the first Orangun. Tó bá dórí this particular one, a sọ pé Orangun lágbájá tó kó nǹkan mèremère dàgbò, tó bá kú re, kò ní sùn re dandan. Yes. The Orangun of Okela, Ọba Adédòkun Abọ́lárìn, in August 2023, told the newspaper that the Eka celebration reflected on the accomplishments and legacies of the various kings who ruled before him, as a reminder that today is a child of yesterday. He explains, and I'm quoting him, from warriors who defended the kingdom against invaders like Ajagunla, to peacemakers who fostered harmony among neighboring communities like Orangun Ogboye. Each king had a distinct role in shaping the town's destiny. Their memories remain evergreen in the hearts of my people, and their stories are recounted with reverence and admiration by the Anyagalu, which I called the chronicler of our history. Oyeniyi Okunwoye, in his Ewi, Yoruba Modernity and the Public Space, argues that the singer is not just an entertainer, but also an agent of change in the society. He points us at Afolabi Olabintan, 1981, who argues in the Efe Gelede poet of Egbado Ketu Yoruba that the Efe songs and poems are used not only to fan up hatred and public opinion against unpopular figures, not only to publicize specific opinions with a view to recommending such opinions for public acceptance, but also to influence public opinion, an attitude or an institution, unquote. Sometimes the Yoruba use songs or even drama to force a change. Akinwumi Shola, in his The African Writer's Tongue, 1992, tells a story. I'm telling the story, I'm repeating the story or quoting the story as told by Professor Akinwumi Shola. An aggrieved king tried in vain to punish an oral artist who had caricatured his lawless messengers. The masquerade was Agboraku. You saw those who came now. That Agboraku, whatever, at Oyo. And the king was Alaafin Ladigbolu, who reigned between 1911 and 1944. When the king's messengers, usually identified by the single tuft of hair in the center of their heads, became intolerably cruel in the execution of their duties, Agboraku the masquerade organized a performance that criticized the king's lack of control over his messengers. Members of the masquerade imitated the customary hairstyle of the king's messengers and dramatized examples of their lawless behavior. The king was furious. He immediately ordered the arrest of the masquerade, but the arrest stirred up considerable anger among the people, who participated in a huge demonstration demanding the immediate release of the masquerade singers. At this point, the king was reminded of the rule, Oba ki pa okorin. The king never kills an artist. Agboraku was released. The Yoruba are moral activists. You see this in their festivals, you see it in their proverbs, you see it in their folklore. So Koka and Koka, the folklore of the Yoruba is actually folk law. That is law which regulates behavior and delivers a society of law and order, freedom, justice, equality, and fairness. This apparently is at the core of the humanity of the Yoruba, and why Yoruba land of the past was a paragon of orderliness. W.H. Clark did extensive travelings across Yoruba land between 1854 and 1858. He was wowed by what he saw and observed. And I'm quoting him. The readiness with which laws are enforced has produced an effect that a people more law-abiding and orderly are seldom to be found. During a sojourn of nearly 4 years, I never saw a street fight between two men, a disgraceful act discouraged by all honorable natives. I heard of but one case of adultery. I heard of very few cases of theft and not exceeding 4 cases of murder throughout the native kingdoms. Now, the question we should ask is this the case today with Yoruba land? If it is not, why is it not? The Yoruba and the environment. Environmental justice is an aspect of Yoruba life, which is mainly derived from the divine. Bolaji Idowu, in his African traditional religion, a definition, reminds us of the Yoruba belief, which holds that man is a tenant on God's earth. So he must do nothing to harm it. This idea is copiously developed in Niye Osundari's The High of the Heart, where the poet reminds us that the forests and the hills and all who derive sustenance from them are also of the heart. The environmental activism in Osundari's poems concretize the Yoruba respect for the earth and all that inhabit it. The deviation from that path leads the poet to query the humanity of the defiant. I'm quoting Professor Osundari now. Are they of this earth who fritter the forest and harry the hills? Are they of this earth who live that half may die? Are they? Professor of Comparative Religious Studies, Raymond Ogunade, in his Environmental Issues in Yoruba Religion, Implications for Leadership and Society, 2005, examines the cordial relationship between the Yoruba and the environment. He stresses that the Yoruba do not usually tamper with nature carelessly. He points at Osun-Osogbo Grove in Osogbo, where forests and rivers are forbidden for hunting and fishing, as an example of the deep desire for care of the environment. When a man or woman desecrates the sacredness of nature, the whole community rises against them. Further down in history, an Aláàfin in Odoyo, Ọba Agberu, poisoned and owed a tree in the palace. And before that, a horrified Oyo and chiefs revolted. Samuel Johnson said they soon found a pretext for rejecting him, and he had to put an end to his life. Johnson, 1921 to 208. Yoruba women as activists. Professor Uliba lived in Yoruba land and competently studied the Yoruba of the 1950s. He was in Ede, he was in Osogbo, he was in Okuku, he was in Ilobu, he was in Ibadan. Yeah. He did a lot of work on pre-independence Yoruba land. It was his finding that Yoruba, I'm quoting him, Yoruba women have never considered the political affairs of the country to be a major business of theirs, but they have always organized themselves sufficiently to see to it that their position towards the men is guarded. Every town has got a human chief whose duty is to represent women towards the king and his chiefs. Bia said the woman chief is much respected by the chiefs and the king. One of our main functions today is to settle trade dispute with the men. Then he witnessed an incident in 1955 in Ede, and I'm quoting him. The women who sell ogi, a food prepared from ground maize, must bring their maize to the mill owners for grinding. These mill owners are men. Now, the women began to complain that the charge of the men was too high to allow them sufficient profit on the sale of ogi. The Yalode then made representations to the mill owners, demanding a lower price for the grinding. The men refused at first, then tried to bargain. The Yalode, however, called off all ogi sellers on strike. The women then began to grind the corn by hand. And after a week, the mill owners, women in any Yoruba society would do exactly what their counterparts in Ede did. The protest culture that continually checkmates excesses has always been there. The Yoruba woman is not a disempowered reactress. It is the economic position of the Yoruba woman which forms the solid basis of our independence. Now, historically, Yoruba land has always produced women who are change agents. Ilorin Dadakwa Damusizan Odulayari, in one of his albums, characterized the immediate past Yalodi of Ibadan, Alaja Aminatu Abiodun. Odulaye said, "One pelobìnrin ni, ohun tó lóko ń ṣe ló ń ṣe. They call her a woman, but she does what men do." That sums up the character traits of Yoruba strong men from folklore, from history to contemporary times. Long before Abiodun, there was Madam Efunroye Tinubu, whose activism straddled business and politics in Lagos, Badagry, and Abeokuta. In Lagos of the early mid-1880s, she was with Oba Adele I, whom she married and lived with. From exile in Badagry, she led the push that ousted Oba Kosoko and reinstalled Adele's younger brother, Akintoye, and reigned with him. She shared the throne with Oba Dosumu, Akintoye's first son, and with it ruled the business world of Lagos. While doing all this, Madam Tinubu ensured that her activism growth had a large dose of nationalist condiments. Her biographer, Oladipo Yemitan, notes that though she was overbearing her dealings with Oba Dosumu, her preemptory orders had a nationalistic undertone. She did not want the Oba to be dominated by foreigners. I'm going to cut off several things there, then I will go to, at about the time Madam Tinubu reigned in Lagos, in Badagry, and later in Abeokuta, another Egba woman activist was in charge in Ibadan, putting the men there in their proper place. She was Madam Efunsheta Aniwura. Like Tinubu, Madam Aniwura was the Yalode of Ibadan. Historians credited her with uncommon entrepreneurial ability, enormous wealth, and man-like bravery. Efunsheta's activism saw her challenging the power structure of Ibadan, which was effectively in the firm grips of her male counterparts. She was assertive and daring, and would be called in today's palace a feminist who was the fought without giving any thought to the impact they had on women and children and their trade. Who wrote Efunsheta, who later described her as a positive force in the evolution of Ibadan as a metropolis. I'm quoting Professor Shola now. I was very young with little education when I wrote the book. If I were to write it today, it would be different. Efunsheta can be described as a woman fighting for the rights of women folk. She could be described as a human rights activist. She's not as tough as I portrayed her. In Yalo de Efunsheta Aniwura, owner of Good, Bolanle Awe describes Efunsheta as a very independent-minded and outspoken woman who was not afraid to criticize the Are Ona Kakanfo, that is Are Latosa and his other chiefs. The thing is, many of them borrowed money from her, and because they didn't want to pay back, they had to set her up, murdered her, and even murdered her after her death. Awe says she was a woman who was strong enough to withhold her support for Ibadan war chiefs, their constant wars. She realized that the condition of almost continuous warfare disrupted her own and other people's trading. She therefore became the spokesperson for a group of chiefs who are opposed to the aggressive policy of the leading war captain. For the expedition launched in 1874, she refused to feed any soldiers. She refused to give ammunition credits. She refused to demonstrate that solidarity for meeting with the chiefs at the town gates. And because of that, she had to die. The successor generation of these women of steel kept the fire burning in the 20th century. For instance, the Nigerian General Strike of 1945 saw Yoruba market women taking the lead in giving moral and logistic support to the striking workers. The workers found support among the women community, especially market women, headed by Madam Alimotu Welewura. The women traders deliberately lowered their prices to enable workers purchase available foodstuffs, apart from contributing generous workers. One of them, Madam Aduni Oluwole in particular, donated £100 to assist the workers. Madam Oluwole, a decade later, on 29 May 1954, launched another campaign against politicians. I do not have enough time to go through everything I have here, but I have something on Yoruba activism and peasantry. And here, I discussed the Abekoya rebellion. Professor Falola is there. When he was speaking, he said he described himself as a secondary school dropout. He actually dropped out to join Abekoya as a schoolboy. Yes, he was there. He was there until tí wọ́n yìnbọn lọ́jọ́ kan tí wọ́n lé wọn kúrò lójú ogun. Probably one day, Prof will tell us the full story. Activist Yoruba drama and films. And this is the last part. Drama and films have a very rich history of being platforms for political and social activism and as channels for cultural expression. Yoruba drama and films tell stories in languages and in styles that address societal concerns and stress the need for change. Hubert Ogunde blazed the trail in 1945 with an opera titled Strike and Hunger. It, according to Oliver Coates, provides a unique opportunity to examine the ways in which late colonial politics were reimagined in drama. The play was inspired by the 1945 general strike in Lagos and offers an allegorical dramatization of the events. Ogunde's Yoruba Ronu, made in 1964, is another loud, everlasting example of Yoruba drama. It challenges the political status quo and makes a strong push for the people to reflect and cast away their chain. There were consequences for what Ogunde did with that play and others. Yoruba Ronu was banned by the government. Even the theater group itself was banned from having stage plays. More recently, we have Tunde Kelani's Saworoide and his sequel Agogo Iwo. The above are proofs that the thematic preoccupation of Yoruba films go beyond entertainment. The works explore themes that advance the cause of activism and the need for change in the polity. In Ogunde's Yoruba Ronu and Fuwagboye, and in Kelani's Saworoide and Agogo Iwo, we meet allegory and satire. We meet resistance and calls for action, all with the overall objective of having a just and equitable society. The future. Back to where we started. Activisms and arts in Yoruba land. The Yoruba will challenge any situation and confront any principality. If you are a king or an Are, or even Bashamuga, or a mercy man like Fade Oloro, and you had fire on your head, the Yoruba will seek to remove it. They will
fine art of Yoruba activism. Beautiful topic. Thank you so much, sir. Now, the next item on our program very quickly is the presentation of awards to our special guests. I'll call on, first of all, Dr. Igo Fayomi to do the presentation. To present the first award to the lead paper presenter, I'll call on the Vice Chancellor of Lead City University, represented by Professor Olushola Ladokun.
This award is the award of appreciation presented to you on the occasion of the 7th J Atanda Lectures and Conference for your wonderful paper presentation. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much, the Vice Chancellor. Next, I'll call on the Dean Faculty of Education to present the award to our special guest, Professor Shion Oyeweso.
It's not something. You know something. Now, this is a huge one because Professor Shion Oyeweso was my classmate in Ife. We did this philosophy of history together. I was just telling someone there that Dr. Shegun Oshoba taught us. And we worked so much on that thing. At the time I submitted, I think you had a B, me, I had a C. The guy, the man said, he wrote something, he said, this essay is verbose and repetitive and digresses into issues that are not quite germane to the central matter. That was in 1981 or so. So we've been around together for a long time. And I'm so delighted. Nobody knew that we're so connected, but they just said I should come and make this presentation. On behalf of the Chancellor of this city university, the governing council, the chairman of council just stepped out, my vice chancellor, and all of us, we celebrate this icon of history, this juggernaut of unparalleled service to Nigeria, the chairman governing council of Great Ife, Obafemi Awolowo University. Yes, they call it Oba University. So please celebrate with me, Professor Shion Oyeweso, the special guest of honor and our chairman for this 7th Atanda Lecture and Conference.
Thank you very much. Next, I'll call on Mr. Fatoki to please present the award to the keynote speaker, Dr. Akin Oshuntokun. Thank you, Dr. Oshuntokun. Please come up.
Sir. It's an honor having you talking to us today. I believe that everybody really enjoyed and learned one thing or the other. Particularly, so many people didn't know that Eshu is a deity in Yoruba, and we thank you for that. And for your lecture, on behalf of the organizers of this 7th Atanda lecture, we present this award to you, the service today.
Thank you very much. Would you agree with me that we have had a very, very educative session? Yes, it has been a wonderful session. Thank you very much to our lead paper presenter, Dr. Olasisi Olagunju, our special guest, Professor Shinyo Oyeweso, and our keynote speaker, Dr. Akin Oshuntokun. The next thing on our program this afternoon is lunch. We get to break, we get to walk around, stretch our legs, and then immediately we'll go into the paper presentations, the breakout sessions 3 to 5. While we're breaking up and getting ready to go out, we're going to call the guests on the high table to come together for pictures so that we can get pictures for posterity. Guests, conference attendees should please stay in the hall. The lunch will come to you here. If you leave the hall, you will not be able to get your lunch, so please stay here. The VIPs have a room set up next door, the adjacent hall. But guests, conference attendees should please stay in this hall, and the lunch will be brought to you. Let's have our special guests up on the stage for pictures. Professor Oyeweso should be in this picture. Let's see. Please hold on for Professor Oyeweso, is on his way. Hold on, please, photographers.